What's up, friends? This is Ikenna here, who's currently working on editing the podcast, and I just wanted to say that in our process of learning Restream and trying to figure out the whole like change of just recording audio and also recording audio and video, I did a little goof and forgot to change the input from the camera to the nice microphone like the one that you're hearing here. So you are actually going to hear a little more room sound than I had wanted because my undergrad was in audio engineering, so I'm very picky when it comes to that sort of stuff. But it's still an episode that we wanted to put out because it has, a very interesting topic regarding media and representation. And so it's on YouTube, it's on Spotify, it's on Apple Podcasts, it's on Google Podcasts, I believe. So go to those places to hear what we have to say. On YouTube, you get to see our faces and how we interact with each other, as well as we'll post like movie posters or like different images over top of what we're saying sometimes to kind of give more context in the moment compared to us attempting to explain it in the podcast and then giving you the links in the notes section, which I'll still be doing. So just wanted to give you guys that heads up. So it'll be this one, and then our next episode will also be like that with the camera audio. So, yep, just admitting the fact that we're all human, but we still wanted to put this content out, and we appreciate your flexibility and patience. And if you have anything that you want to mention regarding these episodes, feel free to contact us on Facebook or in Discord. Thanks. Oh gosh.
We're here.
We're here.
We're doing the thing.
We're here. We're queer.
But we're not in a closet.
Yes.
We have graduated from the closet.
Yep.
We
Graduated.
Graduated from the closet.
You have to go through at least 16 episodes of podcasts in order to get your degree to get out of the closet.
Yeah.
But we will be posting things on YouTube of our past episodes. It just won't have our faces.
Yeah.
Or it might, but it'll just be a picture or a GIF of me over and over again.
Yeah, so this is our first podcast recording where we're attempting to use video, but we're still planning to do audio versions only as well, because people like different formats.
Yep.
So, yeah. Today we're going to talk about which of our 3 topics?
Yeah, we have so many options.
Representation being important.
Okay.
And indoctrination in media.
Yeah, that's a doozy.
It is a doozy. So we were talking about this because what originally sort of got the conversation going?
I mean, most of these come up due to the things that I see on social media, or kind of like any little fires that people decide to bring up on TikTok or on Facebook, or people making a fuss over certain things. And I follow a lot of queer-based groups that will often post things of being like, be aware of this, be aware that this is happening. And there has been a lot of upset from people who are not in the LGBTQ community about LGBTQ plus representation.
And I mean, we could even explore like representation of female lead characters, representation of Black lead characters, representation of Asian lead characters,
yeah,
of Latinx lead characters. Like, I remember when the newer Star Wars trilogy came out, like, people being up in arms about Rose, about Finn, about Poe, about Rey. Literally no one was happy because, well, not no one. We know who wasn't happy. But the vocal minority of pretty much white men, let's be real, were very upset by the choice of leads. And there was a lot of harassment and just really toxic stuff.
Yeah, and like boycotting of, and what's interesting is like media is one of those things that, you know, LGBTQ plus or people of color or women, like,
So every time you wave your hand, the camera adjusts.
cool.
You're getting to know the technology here, and it's not good.
Doesn't like the gay hands. Nope.
So
That's homophobic.
but yeah, every time you move, it
Freaks out. Cool. So I'll try my best to keep my hand under
under the microphone.
So yeah, whenever now I've lost my train of thought because now I'm trying to
You're worrying about the technology.
Well, yeah, but now I'm trying to.
So the representation of all these different groups, and then you were starting to say something specifically about LGBTQ rep.
Oh yes, so there's a thing called queerbaiting, and I didn't really fully understand what queerbaiting was because I thought it was just a way to pull in people but still have queer representation, but it not necessarily be like the main character. But queerbaiting is basically kind of like insinuating queerness, but kind of playing it safe for everyone else who might be up in arms about queer representation.
Dumbledore is queerbaiting.
Yeah.
Anything that doesn't push towards like actual representation in media, but is passively or after the fact claiming representation is queerbaiting. There was a recent Disney movie. Is it Raya and the Dragon? Was that what it was called? Or something like that? I didn't watch it, but a lot of queer people felt like the main relationship between the two female leads was like very queerbaiting. And I don't know if it was written out of the script. I'd have to look into the history of it, but essentially they didn't go there in the end and just kind of like abruptly cut off the relationship. And yeah, that's queerbaiting.
But there are more movies now that I've noticed that do have queer representation, like that are cartoons. Like I think the latest Buzz Lightyear movie has a scene where one of his friends' parents are two dads or two moms or something like that. And then there's another one where I don't remember exactly. It was Baymax. There was like a
Baymax.
Yeah, they had like an offshoot of My Hero 6. What are they called?
Big Hero 6?
Big Hero 6? Yeah.
We don't know our Disney titles clearly.
We're bad with names. Which is bad because we were both teachers. I forgot names all the time. I felt terrible. But there was trans representation where there was a person with like a trans flag shirt on that was very distinctly a trans man and was purchasing like tampons, and people were up in arms about that. But it's just like that's like a little bit of education, I would say, because it's kind of like if you don't provide awareness of this stuff, it's like and only demonize it and say this is bad, this is terrible, don't really learn anything about it because it's bad. Kids will probably either one go off and explore it on their own
and get misinformation,
or be scared of it forever and not really understand like why they're scared of it. They were just indoctrinated.
Yeah,
whatever that word is.
Yeah, and like two notes I want to kind of follow on that. I definitely will probably get into the more indoctrination side of things because I know I'm going to get heated in the second half of this episode. But as you were talking about sort of that representation and like even just seeing options, like seeing a trans man buying tampons and knowing that like if you're trans, you are still going to potentially have all of the same biological issues that you have to deal with as the gender you were or the sex you were assigned at birth.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't just go away. Like, I actually remember having a client that I worked with very briefly. Their parents reached out to me because their child was like questioning their gender identity. And in the first couple of appointments I had with them, I think they were about 13, 14. Their parents knew nothing about trans issues. And the kid was like, I'm reasonably certain the kid was assigned female at birth.
Mm-hmm.
And they were asking me if they transitioned, if they could avoid getting a period.
Mm.
And that's not how it works, buddy.
Yeah.
But, you know, when we don't have any representation of that in media, like, and parents might not know, maybe that exposure via media is how the parents learn something about it and learn that there are other ways of being.
Yeah, there was it's actually really interesting that you bring that up, because I saw a TikTok the other day of someone, like a parent of a trans man, who found someone posting a video about how dangerous it is for parents to allow kids to explore their transness because it's quote unquote a choice. And because this person wanted to be a trans man,
Mm-hmm.
this woman wanted to be a trans man when she was a teenager because she had bad periods.
And
then her parents were like, no.
It did it again.
No.
It's only against you. When I do it right in front, I think it's when it's here in the middle, because then it's trying to focus here.
Yeah. It's like there's another person. Hello.
These video episodes are going to be very weird. Like you're looking over here, and I'm looking at the camera, and I'm looking at you, and then it's blinking and
I'm trying to look at you.
But I am not your audience.
I thought you were saying we were looking at each other.
Occasionally.
That's why we were like facing, that's why I'm turned.
Yeah, we're like turned slightly towards each other.
We needed to obviously choreograph this for my poor autistic brain. I didn't get the memo. But yeah, so, and now I'm like,
so this woman,
this woman
is anti sort of.
She was like, I'm so glad that my parents didn't allow me to, do hormone blockers or anything like that, because I'm not trans. And so people who are allowing their kids to do that, are harming them because, and this parent was like, no, you thought you wanted to be trans because you were anti-period. My son wanted to be trans because he was like fully in a whole, like wholly trans, like didn't feel like himself in his assigned gender body.
Well, and this is another topic for another podcast, but just a small note on that. Like, even if you were to support your child in doing those things that they are claiming that they want to do, you're supporting their mental health in the moment, and things can be reversed in many cases, and if they change their mind later. But I think it's for mental health, it makes more sense to support as much as possible, and we need that media exposure too to allow that. The other thing I was thinking about, and obviously I am a white person, so I cannot speak to the Black experience, but as we were talking about this, I also remembered back to, like, I'm a huge fan of High School Musical, and I'm not going to remember the character's name off the top of my head from the original, but there is a Black female, like, semi-lead. She's what would you call that? Like she's a side character, but she's pretty forward in the story.
Ish. Like she's a part of the chorus, essentially.
She's like Gabrielle, I think is the main character's name. Like best friend in school, essentially, or close friend. And the actress that played I'm going crazy now that I can't think of her name, and I feel like I need.
Didn't she end up dating Corbin Blue's character?
Yeah, they like had like a little crush on each other at the end. Let's see, High School Musical characters, because I remember reading about the fact that they didn't have anyone trained. Taylor is the character's name. Monique Coleman was the actress in the original. Yeah, they didn't have anybody on staff for hair and makeup that knew how to work with black hair.
Oh no.
So they just put her in a freaking headband. That's why her wardrobe is just a headband over straight, like more white presenting hair.
Ooh.
And like that was a conversation that was had like down the line, because Monique talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing where representation is important, because we have seen so many school systems tell, black children that they're not allowed to wear their own families' hairstyles, their own culture's hairstyles, and to use products that work for them and their hair types, and like, the fuck?
Yeah, that makes no sense.
And so representation in that way is important too. Like to have, when you're filming, when you're doing music videos, when you're like making any form of media, to be able to have a team that can discuss the unique experiences and sometimes challenges that are experienced by different types of people. In my book Bumblebees and White Balloons, one of my lead characters is black, and I can't write from the black experience. I can try to imagine aspects of it based on stories I've heard, on people I've worked with and talked to, and research that I've done. But like, I have a sensitivity. I had 2 sensitivity readers for that character, so that they could make sure I was representing it in a really good way, because a really, realistic way, because I don't know that experience. And media is such an opportunity for us to get to know what other people's experiences might be like.
Yeah, and I mean, that's why autistic representation in media was also like, people just thought autistic people were
Rain Man.
Rain Man.
That's what it's called, right?
I don't know.
We're just talking about all these medias that we're like, we don't know any of the names, but
no, but I have
the power of Google.
Yes, I have basically. My perception of autistic people were from movies and media where it was 99% man or a boy, and they were either nonverbal or non-speaking, and they were just so incredibly talented in a specific thing. Like they become so hyper focused and into this certain thing that like they can do math problems in their head that are extremely hard. They can memorize the entire phone book. I think that was what Rain Man was.
Rain Man, I think, was like lots of different numbery things or something.
Yeah, so it's like, if that's the only representation that you have, once everyone's like learning, like actually starting to look through the DSM, starting to hear from other autistic people's experiences, and learning about what those different diagnoses are, they're like, oh, this is not what's really being represented.
Right. Yeah. And when we have that representation, it's so powerful because we don't feel alone. And like, entertainment is meant to entertain.
Yeah.
We all have different things that we are entertained by. But I think that when we're able to be entertained by experiences similar to our own, that there's a level of depth there that we're not going to get otherwise, because we're not going to be able to see ourselves in it. So it's important that as many people as possible have the opportunity to feel seen and understood in their experience, which can be in books, it can be in music, it can be in TV, it can be in a podcast, like commercials. Oh gosh, all the wars against commercials. I remember, like, Cheerios had 2 dads, and like people were like, I'm boycotting Cheerios.
Oh Lord.
No more Cheerios ever.
Burning the Cheerios boxes. I remember like not even understanding the concept of like just like the weird thing that companies would do in order to like advertise different things. Like I remember watching the Golf Channel with my dad all the time, and that every other commercial was an erectile dysfunction.
Oh my gosh.
But it was always just this really vague, like slow-mo thing of like a guy and his woman like just looking at each other lovingly, or like them like sitting in 2 separate bathtubs looking out into the sunset in the middle of like it was very weird. But I never knew what that meant. And I remember asking my dad like what it was for. He was like, it's for erectile dysfunction. And at that point I didn't even know what an erection was. And so it's like,
you were just like, okay,
this is weird. So yeah, that's, those are some of the, and then of course like period commercials, like you can't show anything that seems like blood, even though it could be a commercial for a movie that has blood in it. But oh Lord, if there's a blood on a pad, like, or on a tampon, that's gonna be
end of the world.
So they have to show a tampon in like a blue liquid.
I mean, I'm down to have alien blood.
There we go. That's what it represents.
They're just representing alien
periods.
But yeah,
without realizing it.
Oh my gosh, like, yeah, these bigger issues of just not being seen. I mean, another piece of representation that's so important is body sizes and body types. It's not just the different races and skin colors and gender presentations and expressions and all of that, but like literally, train of thought just went right out the window.
Well, I was thinking like you, in terms of, for example, people who are fat, there's still a standard of fat beauty. Like there's a type of stomach, there's a type of curvature, that
there's a type of face. Like I do notice with a lot of more, I'm using the word that's used culturally right now, plus size models, which I have mixed feelings about plus size, but they still have these very thin faces. Like you don't see a lot of double chins, you don't see a lot of rolls, until you get into like some of the really inclusive underwear brands or lingerie brands. I'd love Savage Fenty and
Tomboy X.
Does Tomboy X have much representation on their websites? I've never paid much attention to their website.
Yeah, I would say so.
Oh, do we have a guest?
We have a cat guest here.
Oh,
did you do a little murr? Hi,
you want to come on? Nope. Well, maybe he'll make an appearance. I can't keep making eye contact with you, buddy. I gotta record. He's so handsome. He's a distraction. But yeah, body representation matters, and that goes into disability, like physical disability representation too.
Here we go. Here's one of our 3 cats. His name is Bane.
Oh, he's not happy to be on this. He does not like being filmed.
No.
Fun fact. Oh, I need to clean your eye groups. But yeah, like the whole a show that does it really well, and there's not really physical disabilities in this show. I'm trying to think, and I can't think of a single physically disabled character. Well, no, there's a character with physical disabilities, but not like limbs missing or like wheelchair bound or anything like that. But She-Ra and the Princesses of Power did a really good job with the representation, because they not only show a range of body types and skin tones, but then they also actually use voice actors who fit the profile for the different characters.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important.
Yeah, they had a non-binary character for the non-binary
character. Yeah, and like they weren't afraid to use voice actors that were actually able to represent more aspects of their characters. You are giving me the loveliest eyes, and I can't deal. And so with this whole representation piece, the second half is the indoctrination, because we hear this argument, oh, you know, if there are gay people in media, then my kids are going to turn gay.
Yep, because all of the straight people in media definitely turn me straight.
Yep, they 100% turned you straight.
But yeah, that's the thing is, I think we use the argument of indoctrination as a way to put blame on something that's just causing us discomfort over change.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're definitely causing, like, when there's representation in a way that people are not used to, when it's not traditional.
Traditional.
Whenever someone says that they're really into staying in the tradition of something, like, you have to kind of question what they mean by that, because sometimes people basically just don't want change and assume change is bad. Like, change is going to cause them to lose different privileges or lose different, like, another TikTok I saw the other day was there was a person who was role playing two different people. One of them had a cup that said woman, she, her, and grabbed it and, like, you know, was like, oh, this is nice, or woman, mother, and was starting to sip from it. And then someone was like, and they dressed as a different person and, like, came in and grabbed a glass. It's like, I want this one instead that says he, they, parent. And this person was like, oh, you're taking away from my experience. Like, I am, you know, womanhood isn't this thing anymore. Like, and they're holding their, you know, the woman mother cup, and the person's like, you can drink from your glass. Like, I'm not taking this glass. This glass is separate from your glass. You know, you don't have to worry about that. And they're like, no, it ruined it. It ruined. And they're like, I didn't pour any of the he, they glass stuff in the woman glass. Like,
right.
Like, I didn't taint it. Like, it's a separate.
It's still
thing.
there. You're still allowed to be a woman and a mother.
Yeah.
You know, that's really interesting, because I know I had seen sort of I don't know if I want to call it a thing, an incident, a situation that was being talked about on social media of erasure, Worcestershire sauce, erasure of women and mothers, and instead changing it to the birthing parent, which, cool inclusivity, but erasing an identity in order to make things more inclusive is not the way to go either.
It would just be having it as a choice.
Have a choice. Do you want to be referred to as the mother or the birthing parent, or insert other here? Like,
it would be almost like saying, all right, from now on, in order to be inclusive, everyone is going to be referred to with they, them pronouns. No one else, like, you are not going to be any pronoun other than they, them in order to be inclusive.
Which I hate.
Right.
Yeah, like, so that was something that I brought up. Like, my pronouns are she, her, and a air, and I don't really use a air anywhere other than in writing, because honestly, it's easier, and it's not, pronouns are a big deal, but not a big deal to me. Because I noticed when I was referred to as they, and I know we talked about this in a episode earlier on, but I noticed when I was referred to as they, I didn't like it. I also wouldn't like being called he.
Yeah.
But she feels fine in my body. A air feels fine in my body. I would be very upset if people were suddenly like, nope, it's only they. This is the only choice you get. So that's where this broad representation and the ability for each of us to choose is super important.
It's almost like people are afraid of like it's almost like it's almost like a weird easy way out of being like, you know, in order to be inclusive, we're going to only have one choice, so we don't have to remember all of the other choices. And it's like, no, just learn other people's choices. Like, people are going to tell you their identity. Like, it's going to be a learning experience. You're going to make mistakes. Like, that's the thing too, is it's like, I've told people my name change and they're like, I like your old name better or something. And I'm like, but that doesn't matter.
So, and that's where, because we like to talk about boundaries, you know, at the end of the day, if it offends you to see gay representation in media, don't watch it.
Yeah.
If you don't want to read a book about the Black experience, don't.
I've heard people be like, "Oh, it's like my kids can only watch the old Disney stuff because all of the new stuff is going to have gay representation in it." So and it's just like, I'm trying to understand what, again, this is like the fear of change. Like, and it's like, where is that fear of LGBTQ concepts coming from?
I mean, it's the same as the fear of Indigenous people, of, you know, of BIPOC people, of the fear of the Black man. It's all this cultural shit that we have built up in creating others,
it's
right? And
literal media indoctrination and societal indoctrination without us realizing it. Like, we think, like, people who complain that media representation of minorities is indoctrination, think about how you have been indoctrined by dominant culture your whole life. And so now this like breath of fresh air of like actual representation of the whole, I think we're now calling America the salad bowl, because if you call it a melting pot, it means everything is melded into one thing.
Right.
Salad bowl, everything is a salad, but each thing is separate.
I am not a tomato.
No, you're not.
Tomatoes make me feel real gross.
And Justin's not a cucumber.
And Justin's not a cucumber because he hates them. And you're not a, what do you hate in salads?
Fruit. I'm not an orange slice.
First of all,
if it's a regular savory salad,
if it's a salad with cucumber and tomatoes in it, please no oranges. But
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Anyway, that's the thing with when I remember taking my multicultural class in grad school. I was, 26, 27 taking this class, and they're like, here's the truth about the history of America in terms of like what minorities had to go through. And I'm like, I learned none of this in public school. Like, if I did, it was kind of like, grazed over. Like, you didn't actually like know the severity of it. Like, I remember the Trail of Tears, but I like wasn't upset over it. Like, it was still like just a concept that was brought up. Like,
very glossed over.
It was just history.
It's normalized. Like,
yeah, this is just what
normal for presidents to do shit like that.
Yeah, whatever. And so I was like, America. And it's like, America's the best country in the world. Sort of like that was the indoctrination that we were given. Like, democracy is the best, capitalism's the best. Making us get scared of over socialist or communist concepts. Equality being scary for some things. But like that, like I had no idea about like the hardships of Asian Americans and like how they came to be.
I mean, how many people didn't even know that we had internment camps here?
They're just as it was a mini Holocaust, basically a Holocaust here that happened with the internment camps. And it was just like, that was glossed over. That wasn't, we'll blame Germany for having a Hitler, but like at the same time, we were doing the same stuff.
And we're totally allowed to just lock people up.
Jeez. And that's like, so I remember being infuriated learning this stuff because I was like, wait a minute. You're telling me that as a child, as you know, as people use this argument now of like, as a child, as a very vulnerable child, I was convinced of this skewed concept of what the actual truth was because it was, I guess, safer, or like it basically created these mini nationalists.
Well, and that perpetuates the patriarchal system that we find ourselves
I mean,
in.
don't you find it kind of weird that they make all of the students stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance every morning? That's
when I was a teacher, I didn't say the pledge. I would stand up and I would stand there with my kids and let them do
whatever they wanted.
If they wanted to do that, that was their choice, and if they didn't, then yeah, okay. Because there's definitely words in there that not everybody's going to agree with.
Nope.
Like one nation under God.
Yikes.
That's another important thing that needs to be represented in media is like different religions and spiritual backgrounds. And oh my gosh, we could go on for hours in this podcast.
There was oh geez, it has the word red in it. I was like, I just watched this cute movie with my partner Ariel.
Red.
It was about the red panda. Turning Red, I think it was what it was called. It was this really cute movie that was about like emotional regulation and whatnot. It was really cute, but it also showed like traditional, I don't know exactly what, I think it was Chinese culture. I might have gotten that wrong. I need to keep those in order, but they had different they had like a spiritual tradition that they would do with like their ancestors. Same thing with Coco. Was that what it was called? Coco's
the Day of the Dead one.
The Day of the Dead one. Where they were sharing about that.
I mean,
ancestry.
even like Moana.
Yeah.
Is showing, you know, different spiritual views of like the land and
but when it comes to like witchcraft, you see that in like Sabrina and the Teenage Witch, and you see that in, you know, like you see that in this really weird, like fantastical thing versus like kind of just seeing someone who is a Wiccan that just exists in the rest of the culture. Like,
yeah,
or pagan or Hindu, yeah.
I mean, the chakra system is sort of blowing up all over the place now, but we don't really give credit to where it comes from,
right?
Because there's this, you know, huge influx of yogis,
and
which
like,
is cool, but like there needs to be that cultural awareness and humility with it too.
Yeah, same thing with oh God, what is it called? Smoke cleansing. That's what it's called.
I call it smoke cleansing.
Smoke cleansing.
So smoke cleansing, smoke clearing,
which is isn't that specifically called in indigenous culture smudging?
In some indigenous cultures,
it's called smudging.
And smudging usually refers to like the white sage practices. So yeah, being mindful of our language and including language in a way that represents people. I'm anti-appropriation. How do I word this? I'm anti-appropriation, but I think that there are plenty of ways for us to cross-culturally share together.
Yeah.
When we are able to acknowledge the roots of things, but we're not going to be able to acknowledge the roots of things if we're not representing them either, right? That representation is an opportunity to learn, I think, is where I kind of want to like really leave this episode, is like think about what kinds of media that you consume, and does it do a good job of ethically showing a variety of representation? Does it honor things, or does it poke fun at them or appropriate them or trash talk them? And again, you have the right to draw your boundaries and not want to partake in certain media, but it also doesn't mean that you should trash other people being represented either. Like, if you just want to go watch a bunch of white people doing white people stuff, that's the only media you want to consume, okay.
Yeah.
But don't try to boycott. Well, I mean,
that's your boundaries.
You can boycott something, but like, you don't need to be like, everyone boycott this because there's not enough white men in it or whatever. Like tearing it down is having no value for anyone ever because it's not of value to you is very different, I think.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Heckin' own your shit, people.
Yeah, you can say that again. That's
Heckin' own your shit. That's gonna be one of our t-shirts. Heckin' own your shit.
Heckin' own your shit. And then people's gonna be like, what the fuck does that even mean?
Living Luna, heckin' own your shit.
Uplifting the others and also heckin' own your shit.